And now to our other lead story tonight. That is special counsel Robert Mueller's indictment of President Trump's longtime advisor Roger Stone on 7 counts. The charges raise new questions about the link between the Trump campaign and WikiLeaks' efforts to tilt the 2016 election against Hillary Clinton. Nick Schifrin reports.
Today, outside a Florida courtroom, in front of a raucous crowd, the man who brags about having the ear of the president luxuriated in the spotlight.
The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about.
Roger Stone was surrounded by some well-wishers and a chorus of critics. Just hours after he was arrested in his South Florida home, as seen on CNN. Shortly after that, special counsel Robert Mueller's office unsealed an indictment that charges Stone with 1 count of obstructing an investigation, 5 counts of false statements, and 1 count of witness tampering.
I will plead not guilty to these charges. I will defeat them in court. I believe this is a politically motivated investigation.
The indictment focuses on the relationship with WikiLeaks head Julian Assange and damaging emails released by WikiLeaks.
WikiLeaks has released what appears to be transcripts.
Now, these WikiLeaks releases have rocked the campaign.
In 2016, WikiLeaks published emails U.S. intelligence says were stolen by Russia from Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta and the DNC. Today's indictment suggests the Trump campaign was aware of WikiLeaks' release beforehand. Stone spoke to senior Trump campaign officials about Organization 1, a reference to WikiLeaks, and information it might have had that would be damaging to the Clinton campaign, the indictment says. Stone thereafter told the Trump campaign about potential future releases of damaging material by Organization 1.
This has nothing to do with the president.
Today, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders tried to distance the president from the indictment. The president himself tweeted, "Greatest witch hunt in the history of our country. No collusion. Border coyotes, drug dealers, and human traffickers are treated better." But since the Mueller investigation began almost 2 years ago, the president's former campaign chair has been convicted. His deputy campaign chair, national security advisor, and personal attorney have pleaded guilty. And now his longtime political advisor and friend has been charged.
I made the case that the accusation that I knew about John Podesta's email hack in advance was false.
The indictment accuses Stone of lying in September 2017 to the House Intelligence Committee. The indictment says Stone made deliberately false and misleading statements to the committee concerning, among other things, his possession of documents and his communications with the Trump campaign. Stone claimed he hadn't kept documents or talked with the campaign, but the indictment cites an October 4, 2016 email. Stone told a high-ranking Trump campaign official that Assange had a serious security concern, but would release a load of emails every week going forward. Just before that, in August 2016, Stone praised Assange on C-SPAN.
Well, first of all, I think Julian Assange is a hero. I think he's taking on the deep state. And no, I have not spoken to Mr. Assange. I have not met with Mr. Assange, and I never said I had. I said we communicated through an intermediary, somebody who is a mutual friend.
Today's indictment also accuses Stone of trying to intimidate that intermediary, believed to be comedian Randy Credico, and trying to get him to lie to Congress. On multiple occasions, Stone told Person 2, believed to be Credico, that Person 2 should do a Frank Pentangeli.
I don't know nothing about that.
A reference to a Godfather 2 character that tells Congress he didn't know critical information that he did, in fact, know.
My name is Roger Stone, and I'm an agent provocateur.
Stone is a self-proclaimed dirty trickster, an outspoken fan of former President Richard Nixon, and a longtime Republican prince of the dark arts, or opposition research. He documents his style in the 2017 Netflix film, Get Me Roger Stone.
It is better to be infamous than never be famous at all.
He's known Mr. Trump for 3 decades. Former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort, who himself appeared in court today for a hearing related to Robert Mueller's investigation, described in the same film how close Stone was to Trump.
Roger's, relationship with Trump has been so interconnected that it's hard to define what's Roger and what's Donald.
Today, this longtime Trump confidant said he would appear in a D.C. court next week and vowed to keep fighting, as he has been for 5 decades.
And for more on this, I'm joined now by Renato Mariotti. He served as a federal prosecutor focusing on white-collar crimes and is now a defense attorney in Chicago. Thank you very much for joining us today. Roger Stone was indicted today for actions related to the House Intelligence Committee investigation. Doesn't the president and his spokeswoman have a point when they say this isn't about the president or the White House?
They certainly have a point because the president was not indicted today, and no member of his administration was indicted today. And also, as you point out, these are crimes that are related to Roger Stone's obstructive activity. Obviously, a counterpoint would be we just saw a moment ago the reporting that was done and the video that was shown of Paul Manafort. This is a close associate of the President of the United States. And according to the indictment, at times he was taking actions under the direction of senior members of the president's campaign. And this is the cover-up, essentially. This is him trying to hide those activities.
Is there a question about why these charges are limited? No talk of conspiracy, for example. Not even saying contacts with WikiLeaks are illegal.
Sure. I mean, prosecutors, like when I was a former prosecutor, we tried to charge narrowly drawn crimes for a couple of reasons. One, the burden of proof is very high. So to prove that Mr. Stone conspired with Russian intelligence or conspired with WikiLeaks, you'd have to prove that he agreed with somebody there to commit a crime together with them beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's not an easy thing to do because these are agreements that aren't memorialized in written contracts typically. So, here Mueller is able to prove a more narrow crime, and then at sentencing, the judge could consider all of Stone's conduct. The way our federal sentencing laws work is that the judge is required to consider anything that prosecutors can prove by a 51% standard as long as they get a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt.
Does that mean part of this is putting pressure on Roger Stone and his attorneys to perhaps consider flipping?
No question. One of the key moves here is to put as much pressure as possible on Stone and get him to change his mind. Now, obviously, the president, for some reason, is very eager for Stone not to flip. He's mentioned in the past that Stone had guts for not flipping. But the pressure here is significant for Stone. He's looking at a sentence at least in the 15 to 21 month range, potentially 41 to 51 months, depending on how the judge calculated the sentencing guidelines. And it could go up. There was a search warrant executed at his house earlier today. Mueller's continuing to investigate. And perhaps this indictment could cause others to come forward. So if I was Stone's attorney, I would be concerned. And if he can't get a pardon, flipping is the next best option.
What would Roger Stone's and his attorney likely case be against this indictment?
So it'll be a challenge for them. I mean, if I represented Stone, my first job would be to get him to stop talking. If Stone had stopped talking as soon as he was under investigation by Mueller, he wouldn't be in this mess. Because he's in this mess because he was pressuring Credico to lie and because he told lies to the House Intelligence Committee. So, as Stone has continued to talk, he needs to keep his mouth shut. And if I was his attorney, frankly, I think it'll be hard to defend some of these charges unless there's some really unexplained ball to drop here. This looks like pretty damning evidence. So my focus would be either trying to get a pardon from President Trump or alternatively trying to work out a deal with prosecutors where he would plead guilty to one crime, for example, lying to Congress, get a cooperation deal, and get them to agree that there's not sufficient evidence to indicate that he physically threatened Credico, which is what would dramatically increase his sentence.
Renato Mariotti, former federal prosecutor, thank you very much.
Thank you.